The first catalog of 2025 has hit. What are my first impressions? Come back after the titles and we'll go through it. Hey everybody, Anthony Dodge, Mile Train Outsider, American Outsider, here with the first 2025 new items catalog from my European world of trains. It is Piko. Now Piko does four sizes, N, T, T, H, O, and G. But I'm only going to look at the HO catalog because I look at stuff that I could consider putting on me since they do separate catalogs. So I'm just going to look at the HO. You can go to their site. Now this is, you can go to their site and look them up. This is in German. The English version will probably be up in a couple of days. But I'm going to go ahead and at least look at what they've got to offer. And they've got a class 91-1 showing right there. So let's get past it and go straight through. And here we have a CAD drawing, a CAD drawing of a diesel locomotive. I don't know if it's the class 91 they were showing, but this looks to be roughly in that era. It's a 91-3. Okay. I really don't know my locomotives, especially the steamers. Modern era, and certain key ones I do know, but overall I don't know. Anyhow, on this page, what we'll do is kind of explain some of what you would see through the rest of the catalog here. You get a picture, and usually they have a picture of the model, but this is a CAD, obviously. Now, in the corner of the CAD over there, it says Form Neu 2025. Form Neu means basically new model. So they have not made this one before. And then they'll give you a flag underneath it. That'll tell you the country it originated from. That's the German flag. And then they give you a bunch of the technical specs, like does it have two-way lighting? What decoder does it have in it? The coupler specs, the NEM coupling setting, etc., 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 and a few other things. And then, obviously, you get what it is. Dampflok, Dampf is steam. So steam locomotive. Baureihe, BR, Baureihe, model number, but building row is how you translate that. 91.3 DB, Deutsche Bundesbahn or Deutsche Bahn. EP is Epoche, which is era, and then 3. And real quick, just in case you've never seen my video before, know nothing about German model trains, it's actually rather similar to the United States, but when they put a model in an era, there are 6 eras currently in the German model world. Era 1 is anything before World War I and to the end of World War I. And there's always a transition period of 5 or so years. So towards the Era 1 is up to about the end of World War I. Era 2 is the ending of World War I to the end of World War II, although there's technological and other changes as well. Era 3 is post-World War, so it's mid-late 40s to the late 60s, so about a 20-year period in there. It doesn't mean they stopped running anything after that time. Some Era 3 things ran into Era 5 and still run in the modern era's heritage. All right, so Era 3 is end of war to the late 60s, early 70s. Era 4 is late 60s to the 80s, mid 80s. Era 5 is early to mid 80s to the early 2000s. And then Era 6 is early 2000s to now. Although many people I'm hearing whispering over in the European community are saying that a lot of the trains that are now being modeled of modern era, trains that like ICE 4s and the coming ICE 5, that these really will be classified as Era 7. Era 6 will be given a finite ending time, and so we're clearly in a transitional period, but Era 7 might be coming. That's already more than you need to know. And then in many of these locomotives down below that, you'll see there's three prices. That's euros, obviously, and the euro and the dollar. It's about, to buy a euro, you need about $1.03 right now, maybe $1.04. So it's a fairly close exchange rate. Those are the prices you would probably see in dollars at the American shops. Some shops will jack it up a little bit. But anyhow, there are three different prices there because you have three different types. You have basically either an analog or a digital without sound, and that's going to be your lowest price. Then you will have digital with sound in 2-rail, DC, DCC, and this is the problem again. People interpret DC meaning analog, but actually DC is the powering system. And then the third one is Wechselstrom, alternating current, in other words, AC, or in other words, the Märklin 3-rail. So if you see where it says 50733 and then a little wavy line sign, that little wavy line is alternating current symbol, and that means it's 3-rail Märklin compatible, which is what I run. Okay. So anyhow, that's way too much I need to say. Here's another one, kind of short, but again, computer aided. And computer aided designs are nice, but they don't really give you a real feel for the model, in my opinion. Maybe you disagree. And okay, it's a Polish one, a TKI3. PKP is Polish Railways, Era 3, and you can see the three different ones. And again, it's also a new form for 2025. But you can look these up and you'll eventually get the English descriptions. Okay, this is an E410. I recognize that because I got one from Herb, and now I recognize them very clearly. This is an E410. And they're advertising some of the new features they're adding to it. So it's a new form. It's not the first time they've made this model, but it's a new form, a new molding of it. So an E410, Era 3. All right. Now I'm seeing a theme here, and it's not a good theme. CADs can get you excited, but the models never look like the CADs. The colors aren't quite right. You know, they can look brighter and fancier in the CADs because then they say, well, we're not going to paint this one little bit here in this color, and we're just going to mold this instead of apply it separately. And so they'll change. But this is obviously a little shunter by the color, maybe Austrian. Hey, yep. Whoops, sorry about that. Yeah, it's an Austrian. It's a 1067. I wouldn't have known it's a 1067, but it's Austrian. The ÖBB, that O with two dots over it, that's Ö. So it's ÖBB, Österreichisches Bundesbahn, Era 4, and you can see everything here. Down below it says the 1067 was operated consistently between 1961 and 1994. And it was an exotic replacement of previous shunting locomotives. Okay, so here's a couple now. Here you see the top one says form variant. So in other words, they've done this form before, but it's going to be, they're changing it somehow. In other words, it's basically the same mold, but it's going to have a different paint scheme, or they're going to add a couple of things they didn't add to other variations of it. So that's what a form variante is. But this is a 112. Now, 112s were in service in Germany forever. I mean, it says there it's Era 4, but they were only within the last 10 years pulled from service, and I believe there's one or two 112s still running, although they look a little bit different than this because they remolded some of their exterior. But that is a old 112, which looks quite a bit like a 103. And below it, we've got a 117, which is also listed as Era 4. But you can look at these two. They're both listed as Era 4, but the one on the bottom is clearly a much older, early Era 4. And the one below is late Era 4, mid to late Era 4. But again, they're showing pictures, so you're not really getting a good grasp of the model. and another CAD, and then another photograph. So I guess you're just supposed to be excited about this. Now this is a Class 120. 120s are still in service today in Germany. So it's listed as Era 4, but there are still a couple 120s out there. But this is the original paint scheme. This more lighter, brighter hue of red that they had, with more white on the front ends than the current versions have, which are entirely red, other than a bit of a white stripe in them. But that's a 120. And then below it, we've got an E44. And I've seen tons of E44s. I don't have an E44 myself, but I saw a bunch of them at the Dresden train station in 2019. They've got a little bit of a museum there. It was really cool to see them. And they look better than that picture. Of course, they've been restored. All right, so here's a few more. And by the way, you'll see at the top of the page over there, it says Expert. That's their top end range. They used to have 3 ranges, but now it seems to be 2. There's Expert or Hobby. So Expert is their better stuff. Hobby is their basic stuff. All right, so you got Class 143 in the S-Bahn livery. That's in the upper left. In the upper right, it's a Class 50 in its Era 4 look. I mean, a lot of Era 4 so far. Obviously, Era 3 and Era 4. Again, 150s still were working into the 2000s, but they did have some repainting and a little bit of some exterior work when they did variations of them, like the 150.1s and the 150.2s. And then down on the bottom in blue, we've got Era 6, but that locomotive's not Era 6. That's an old locomotive just with a new modern paint scheme, probably the Deutsche Pressnitzbahn. The Pressnitzbahn, that's Era 6. And then next to it, an old Class 141. And I have an old Class 141 up there, but it's in DC that I got from Herb. Again, nothing stand out, because ones that might stand out or be more of interest are the CADs, and the CADs just don't bring it to life for me. All right, now you've got some live pictures and all kinds of, you have in the upper left a Class 187, which was, I've got a Deutsche Bahn 187 that was the first freight loco I ever had. Joyce got it for me for Christmas in 2017, I think it was. I like the 187s because they were the new look for tracks, but the 187s never took over for the 186s and even the 185s the way it was projected. So I don't think as many of them went into service as originally planned. And of course the Vectrons came in and have kind of replaced everything. And speaking of Vectrons, it's real easy. So here, if you look on the left side of the page, you got 2 187s, including one that is WLC, a private freight company, and HSL, another private freight company. So you got a couple of private 187s. They're sharp. The silver one actually grabs my attention a little more, but yeah, neither one. And then 2 more Vectrons, because right now the Vectron is so easy to mold. It's nothing to just keep changing the paint schemes on them. And every company seems to be getting Vectrons. Deutsche Bahn's got them. All the private companies are getting them. And everybody's advertising them on us. So it makes it real easy for these companies to just change the paint scheme, and you don't have to do any redesign. So you got an Alpha Trains one, and then you got the Bundeshaus Bern. I've actually seen that Vectron, not that exact one, but a Vectron with that livery when Joyce and I were in Basel. We saw that one. Okay, so now an Austrian and I believe Italian. We've got an Austrian 1010, an older, Era 5. And then below it, we've got a 428. And I believe that's Italian. It's, because FS is the Italian railway system. And then Polish again. And Piko has been doing a lot of Polish the last 2 to 3 years. My friend Mark from Model Railway Fantasia probably likes that. A lot of Polish. So an older Polish model dating back to the 80s. EP09, and then below it an EP07. So similar classes, and just electric. E is for electric, and from another one from Era 5. Again, pictures, so it's hard to get excited about the model. We have a Czech pre-independence from Russia, so even Czechoslovakian, Era 4, and then below it, that's listed as Era 6, but you can look at that locomotive and you know that's just an old model redone in a more modern livery, a 242, so slightly related to the old Ludmilla's, the 232s. But anyhow, so in 489, Era 4, and again, just a picture, and then a color picture. But you could tell that picture was taken in 2025. It tells you there 2025. So yeah, very, very interesting. And now some Hungarian. This is Hungarian locomotive, 1980 up until 1982. These were the dominant ones, but so a 43.3 electric unit, Era 5, so that would be mid 80s to early 2000s. But again, there's a lot about that just says older, but of course it's Hungary. And then this is the first one in this catalog that just looking at it, all of a sudden I'm like, it's a class 248, sometimes 249. And I still haven't learned the difference between 248 and 249 because the same model, it's the Vectron dual power, Zweikraft dual power. So it's diesel and electric, sort of a hybrid. But yeah, price not listed yet, but that it's a 248 in this case, and would be for German ICs. Yeah, that would be cool to throw with my inner city rake I have. So this is a maybe. I'll see if maybe Märklin's deciding to do it as well. But this is the first one I've looked at and said, oh, that's a possibility. But again, it's Piko. And Piko's expert line, I think, tend to be very good. I just have more problems with Piko than anybody else when it comes to running them on my layout. I have some great working Pikos. I also have someone that started great and go down. Oh, and here's because they've been making, where Märklin has made, I think Märklin's up to 2 paint schemes on the 248. Piko and Rocco, especially Piko, are already on 7 or 8. So they've got the form there, so it's no big deal to just throw another paint scheme on. So here's one for a company called North Rail. I don't, the livery's not awful. It doesn't excite me. And then there's going to be a CD Cargo, so you know it's going to be blue and white and have the dark blue CD Cargo logo on it. But again, how they paint it could take it from sort of a okay to a, oh, that's a nice one. But I'm not going to suddenly get a fleet of 248s or 249s. Now, here are 2 form variants of existing forms. I didn't even see, yeah, these didn't say it, but it doesn't say new form either. So that tells you it's just a repaint. So here they call it form variante. And really, form variante is not just a new paint scheme. It means they've added something to it, whether it's something interior, including upgraded decoder, or its exterior add-on bits to variate them. But French at the top, Era 6, a couple of what I would call shunters, a couple of little diesel shunters, a class 18, and then a Dutch class 18. And then here's a Vossloh that they're obviously going to do it in that paint scheme. Again, picture's nice, but the colors never quite work the same. And it might look better as a model than in real life, or it might look better in real life as a model. Okay, so here we have just a bunch of odd little rail buggies and so forth. Diesel locomotive, the Cop Train, Era 6, a V23. Class 312, EBS for Germany. An Austrian V60. I actually have some V60s now, a couple of them, thanks to Herb. And then an Era 3, so an old classic diesel from the Netherlands, a 2200 in brown. Although it's kind of hard to tell it's brown there. But not bad at all. Now a Polish SM31, a T435 from Czechoslovakia, before it divided into Czechia and Slovakia. And then one with a more interesting paint scheme, obviously an SM42, which again, in my opinion, is probably an older version, but just with a nice modern tooling and paint job. That looks pretty sharp there. Again, not my thing, but of all the Shunters they've just shown, that's the sharpest one. But again, it's a picture. All right, speaking of Hungary, we've got another Hungarian one, a Class M61 Noab. Very popular in parts of Europe, the Nohabs, which always look a little bit like old, powerful F7s to me. Kind of stunted, though, F7s, but you get the idea. So that's an M61 Noab from Hungary. And then, every year they're going to release a 216, a 218. So this year, here is just a classic Era 5 Deutsche Bahn Cargo 216. The 216s today don't look any different than that, maybe just a little dirtier. And next to that, a Class 118 from the old East German Railways, which would come over when the two countries were united. If any ran, they would have been renumbered as 218s, if not something else, because West Germany and East Germany were different. West Germany, 100 was electrics, 200 series were diesels, and in East Germany it was the opposite. 100 were diesels, 200 were electrics. It's kind of cool, but I don't do East German trains. I know I've got several fans of my channel that do electrics. I don't, or not do electrics, do East German. I don't do the communist era. All right, so here you have American, and they've got 3 different versions. They give you 3 different pictures of how they're doing the different versions. So you've got 9100, 9101, and 9102, and it is an SP 9100 series. So Southern Pacific Railways, the SP, Southern Pacific 9100. Modified. So they're even doing a little bit of American here. Picture of an old Class 151 with, just showing you, it's not really half, it's almost like 1/3, 2/3, but the different ways it was done. This really is like a historical piece showing you, like, here's how they once looked, and then we made them look like this, and then towards the end, this is how they were. But 151s are still in. I have a model of a 151, and I like it a lot. So they're going to make a model of this, the 151 129 Retro. So is it going to have all 3 sections the way this one had? That would be interesting. To be honest, I think it would be too corny. That's just my opinion. I'm sorry. All right, so we've seen all the locomotives. Let's get into some rolling stock in the expert. So we've got tanker cars from GATX with DHL on them as well. You got a set of 2 different sets of 2. Those would look cool on any consist, and it's Era 5. But I'm sure they'd be out there today. And then here is a 440. Now, I have this model from Piko, and it's a great runner. I have it in Nordwestbahn. Here it is in the Baden-Württemberg, which are states. Nordwestbahn basically does Niedersachsen to Hamburg, Niedersachsen and Hamburg area. And BW is Baden-Württemberg, so it's in the state of Baden-Württemberg. It's the state railway, but it's still under the auspices of Deutsche Bahn. But it is a private company. But they're regulated to regions. And I have a a Vario, a Desero in this color coming sometime soon. But sharp enough, but I don't need another 440. And then here is a classic Polish Era 5 EMU, electrical multiple unit. Basically a rail car. An EN57. Again, I don't know these nomenclatures in this case. And down below, you've got a Swiss Regios S-Bahn, basically an EMU. And then a 442 EMU in Germany of one of the private companies. And, whoops, I'm kind of liking that. I want to find out exactly where that runs. I think Joyce and I may have ridden one of these in this livery, but I like that. I do have a 442 in Deutsche Bahn red, but it blew its decoder and I've got to fix it. All right, we keep going. Hey, look, they're making another a Steuerwagen with mid-door entries, mid-entry doors, middle of the car entry doors. These were very common in the 70s in Germany. You'll see lots of German model railways that have these going. And then a passenger car to go with it. And then an East German passenger car and new forms. These are new moldings. They've made these type of cars before, but this is a new molding of it. So they're not redoing old molds. When it says Form Neu, it's a new molding of it. So here you have a couple of Zilberling cars, including the Karlsruhe Steuerwagen passenger car. And then they show it with a double consist that you can get with a Silberlinge and then a painted Silberlinge in the cream and ocean blue coloring. And just more to go. You've got a a baggage car. The Ocean Blau and Beige. Ocean Blau and Beige Era 4, a Postwagen. I think I have one of those. And then a couple of German variations, second-class cars. POP and Grün. So this is a two-car set. And speaking of two-car sets, you got it's two cars in the set. It's a Swiss Era 5. Kind of interesting cars there. And more pictures of different ones they're going to do. So you got 3 different Polish ones from 3 different eras, including a Nahverkehr, regional traffic, in other words, Nahverkehrswagen. So it's Era 5, Era 6, and Era 6, which is really interesting because Poland really has some gorgeous passenger trains in Era 6, and these two look like retrofitted older cars with new schemes. So we'll see how they look when they come out. And here's the Eurofirma RegioJet from the Czech Republic, or Czechia as it's now called. This is actually Austrian, the RegioJet, but it's this would be basically the equivalent of an IC running between Austria and the Czech Republic. Then a couple of older cars of the Czech Republic, Era 5, and again, just pictures. All right, some Güterwagen, some more freight cars. So you got the telescoping wagons. Those were Era, let's see, you've got Austrian and Swiss variations will be coming. And then you got German-Danish flatbed with semis. So kind of a rolling road idea. And then an all-German with 2 DB Schenker semi-trailers on it. And then an empty one from Switzerland. Some Swiss cargo, Austrian sliding roof wagon. And then the tarp colors, and these again from Piko are just same cars repainted, so very quick and easy to produce. You've got Dutch and I believe Luxembourg, because the Dutch flag and the Luxembourg flag are very similar, but Luxembourg has a lighter blue on the third stripe at the bottom. A whole bunch of tankers, so you can freeze the page and look at those. I do like that double Kesselwagen set that they're showing there from Poland. Those are sharp. And obviously you can see ones that they've released before because they've got actual model pictures up there. So the Konsagas one and the OEVA. So you've got Danish, Austrian, and then 3 Polish, Swiss, and 2 more Polish. So like I said, Piko has been doing a lot of Polish. And the advertising their open house, which will be June 20th, 2026. And now here's their hobby level. So this is their low stuff. You have an Austrian G7 steamer. The standard double-deckers from Era 4. These were seen in the 70s and 80s. And I think some of the earliest German model train lines, model train layouts that I saw online had these cars, but I'd already been to Germany and never seen them. They are older. And then some smaller Czech, Polish, and Italian rail cars, or not rail cars, but short passenger cars, multiple cars, a bunch of little mini tankers, and a couple of box cars, for lack of a better term. And a diesel Triebwagen, which is a 642. So it's basically the diesel version of a 442. I actually would like a 642, but not the Czech version. There's 628s and 642s we've ridden a lot in Germany in the last couple of trips, and I'd like to get one of those. And here's one for Denmark. And then here are some East German passenger cars. And Piko was once an East German company, so obviously they would still make a lot of East German stuff. And more Polish. You got 3 Polish cars, the one at the top on the right and then on the bottom row on the left. And a Czech car, and then an old Danish Werkstattwagen, workplace car. And a Packwagen for Czech Republic, so interesting. Bunch more various cooler cars of different eras and nationalities, including French there. Some tankers, and then a Belgian container car, and a flatbed construction train car. Another variety of open cars and your pole cars, or like you might have with wood and other things on it. Again, different nationalities. And that's the end of it. Okay, there you have it. The Piko 2025 catalog. Not maybe their most unimpressive catalog that I've seen in the years I've been looking at their catalogs, which would go back to about 2017, 2018. But definitely their most unimpressive. Some cool stuff in it, but I think it's the first one where there was just one that was a definite maybe, and the rest were like, nah. And I don't think it's helped by all the CAD drawings. You would think if this is stuff they're going to release in 2025, they would have had more production models ready to go. Now, maybe they were in a rush to get the catalog out first, be the first one to strike for whatever press benefit they think that gives them. But I have to say I'm a little unimpressed. There was only one loco in there that I would have put on the maybe buy list. I did like that IC Class 248, the diesel electric Vectron. I did like that. and I will consider. And if Miraklin makes one, it would probably be a definite. If Miraklin announced it, I would say definitely gonna maybe pre-order that one, depending on what else. But while there were some other, sharp looking things in there, it just nothing really stood out to me and said that's cool. So rather disappointing on Pico's part. So we'll see if Miraklin and Rocco do better. And until those catalogs come out, Miraclin's comes out January 7th. I will have to check when Rocco's comes out, because Rocco's already in enough issue having to recall all their night jets. But with that in mind, I'll say, Auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, and happy trains. Take care, everybody.